Good afternoon, students. Hope so you all are well. We'll proceed further with our chapter number 4. In that, we were pending with our developing an effective capacity planning process. So, we'll proceed. Actually, in order to develop an effective capacity planning process, you have to follow some 9 major steps. Why we have to follow these steps? So that you can build up a sound capacity planning process in your industry. So, we'll proceed one by one. The first one is select an appropriate capacity planning process owner. You can say that the first major step is to select. In that, you will say what you have to select. You have to select an appropriate capacity planning process owner. Process owner plays a very vital role in any industry. The second is identify. The identify what? It's a like you'll identify the key resources whose utilizations or performance need to be measured. Then the third is measure. Third key point is measure. What happens in this? It accurately measures the utilizations and performance of the resources you currently have used. Then you have compare. In this key point, basically it compares the current utilization to the maximum capacity. Then later on, the fifth is forecast. It means to collect reliable workload from the developers and the users. Then you have transform. What happens in this is it transforms the user forecast into the IT resources. Then you have map. What happens in this is you map the IT resource requirements onto the already existing resource utilizations. Just the mapping is done. Then you have predict. Basically, the name itself says you to do the prediction. What prediction you will do or what you will predict is predict at what time the current excess capacities will be exhausted and how much additional capacity of which resources will be needed will be measured. Then the last ninth is update. It updates something. What it updates is like it updates the forecast and utilizations of the resources. Now you have to study each and every key point in deep. So just take one book and pen with you, because few points are like not explained in PPT, but I will tell you, you'll have to note down it. The first is like the key point first is select. I have told that what you do in select, the selection is done in this regarding the capacity planning, right, but also the process owner. In this you just have to see the process owner selection. Basically what you do is you select a person for your industry, but you don't directly do the selection of a person. You see like the person must be able to communicate effectively with the developers. He or she will be responsible for designing and maintaining the process. Like he must be able to communicate with the developers effectively. He should also have technical knowledge in deep. These all are the things which are been needed while you do the selection of a process owner. I'm telling you some list like how you will do the selection of a owner. You will see the first is you'll see the ability of a person to work effectively with the developers. Later on you will check out his knowledge. You will check the knowledge of system, software and components. Third, knowledge of network software and components. Then fourth, you will have like ability to think and plan strategically. He or she must have a ability so that if any task has been given, he or she must plan for that task in a strategic manner. Later on, he or she must have knowledge of software and hardware configurations, ability to meet effectively with the customers, and the last key point he or she must have is ability to talk effectively with the IT executives. You can also say that he or she must have knowledge of desktop hardware and software, regarding the power and air conditioning systems, must have knowledge of database systems. All this is a process which I have told just now. All this is a process which you will have to see while you are doing a selection of a process owner. Directly a process owner is not been selected. He or she must have some abilities, must have some qualities, must have some knowledge regarding something. Okay, now we'll proceed with our step number 2, that is regarding identify the key resources which are to be measured. In this, basically what happens is, whensoever you develop a robust capacity planning process, in that a process owner is selected at first. After the process owner is selected, the first task is to identify the infrastructure resources that are utilizations or maybe performance measured. In this, basically the identification is based on current knowledge about the resources. Here also you'll have to note down some points which consist of a complete list of a owner or regarding the identification done. So the first is regarding network bandwidth, then you have regarding channels, then centralized printers, desktop memory, desktop disk space, desktop processors, centralized processors in server. Okay, so all these are the things on which basis the identification is done and the measurement is also done. The third step is to measure. In this, what you measure is, after selection and after identification, the resources are to be measured in consideration of the utilization and performance. Basically, these measurements provide information such as utilization baseline from which future trends can be predicted or analyzed. The second is the quantity of excess capacity available for each component. So in this, you can say how the resources are measured. You can get a question like how you do the measurement. So resource utilizations are basically measured using different tools. Each of the tool contributes a different component to the overall utilization matrix. Like for example, one tool may provide processor and disk channel utilization. The another tool may provide you the information on the disk space. Third may provide you insight into how much of that space is actually being used within the databases. So here you can get a question like, what are databases? Databases are often pre-allocated by database administrators to a size that they feel will support growth over a reasonable period of time. So this was regarding measure. The step number 4 is compare. What you have to compare is compare the utilizations to maximum capacities. Basically, the goal is to determine how much excess capacity is available for selecting any component. The utilization of each component which will be measured should be compared to the maximum usable capacity. Maximum usable capacity is almost less than the maximum possible estimations which have been overcome. You can keep in mind the process owner should not be able to estimate at what point in time a given resource is likely to exhaust. The utilization or performance of each component measured should be compared to the maximum usable capacity. This is a major point. Please note down this. Then you have forecast. Forecast basically is like collection of the workload from the users. Actually, in the entire capacity planning process, this fifth step is most critical, and it is the one over which we have the least control. Developers in the industry are usually asked to help users to complete IT workload forecast. In many cases, the output is being generated and it is only as good as the input coming in. So this is a forecast. You can note down like a worksheet, a sample user worksheet. In that you will show how the forecast is done. You may name it as a user workload forecast worksheet. In this you will just have to write the username, the user department, extension date. Earlier we have done this type of worksheet in our chapter number 3. You will also note down in that the developer name, the developer department and the date. Like how many total users are there, how many concurrent users are there, how much disk space has been used. In this manner you will have to make one worksheet. The worksheet will be named as a forecast worksheet. Just the collection has been done in that. You'll have to just show it in a diagrammatic way. Later on you have the sixth as transform. What it transforms is forecast into IT resource requirements. After the step number 5 is done, that is collection of the forecast, you overcome with the transformation. In this what you do is, basically these worksheets allow to project the estimated time frames during which workload increases will occur. Just it gives us a basic idea like which workload has taken how much of time. Transformation is done. In this help you can take from an senior analyst. The senior analyst can help you to do the transformation of the resource requirements. For major application workloads, it is sensible to utilize the performance centers, maybe the server, the database software, etc. So this was regarding transform. The step number 7 is mapping. What you map the requirements onto the existing utilization. Just the mapping is done. So in this, mapping will show the quantity of the new capacity that will be needed by each component. Why you do the mapping is just to meet the demand. You just see how you have processed in it. Then later on, the next step is regarding prediction. In this you will just say how the prediction is done regarding when the shop will be out of the capacity. The mapping of the quantity of additional capacity needed to meet the demands will also mainly pinpoint the time frame, and in this way you will do the prediction. Later on you have step number 9, which says regarding the updation. Update what? Update the forecast and utilization. This is the last step. In this process of capacity planning is not a unique but rather an ongoing activity. You know this. Capacity planning process is a ongoing activity. Each and every time it may change. Its maximum benefit is derived from continually updating the plan, and the updated plan is to be used in a current way. The plan, keep this in mind, the plan should be updated at least once a year. And basically the shops whichsoever uses this methodology best updates their plans every quarter. This was all regarding your how you develop an effective capacity planning process. In the next chapter we'll just study, in the next chapter of your what you have is regarding the benefits, which benefits are used regarding a capacity planning process. We'll end over here. Thank you.